All right, NASCAR has made sweeping changes to procedure and to competition. Heads have rolled, teeth have gnashed, and I'm exaggerating to the highest degree. Really not that big of a deal. They did make changes, though. Question is, were they the right changes? Were they the wrong changes? Did they make the right call? We'll talk about that in 6 seconds. All right, so just to start off with, if you are new to the channel, content is really ramping up. This is the beginning of the race season. There'll be videos from the track every week that the Truck Series is at the track, and there'll be videos post-race every week and at least one other video every week. So subscribe if you haven't already. I greatly do appreciate each and every one of you that have. Now let's get on to the topic of the day. Most of you have heard by now that NASCAR has made rule changes. Like them or not. Personally, spoiler alert, I think some of them I think are for the better. Some not so much. We're going to start off with what everybody else has been talking about. The Ross Chastain, Hell Melon, Wall Ride, Hail Mary, Bat Crazy. You know what I'm talking about, Martinsville last year. NASCAR has effectively outlawed it. They didn't write a rule for it. They've just made it clear they're going to be enforcing a rule that was already on the books. That rule being anything, and I'm not quoting here, anything detrimental or blatantly reckless in competition will be penalized. That's in a nutshell what they're saying. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm not crazy about the rule. In my mind, I'm not going to get into a quoting Dominic Toretto in Fast and the Furious here, but my thing is, here's the finish line, here's the start line. The guy that gets to this place faster than the other guy finishes ahead of that guy. Outside of that, I'm not a fan of many more rules. Call me old school. And the thing that bugs me, that does kind of bug me, is listening to the radio today, listening to XM NASCAR radio. I heard this a lot. NASCAR had to do something. They had to do something. They had to do something. Well, if they had to do something, then how come no one saw this rule coming? I didn't see it coming. Maybe you did. Maybe I'm the blind one. I don't know. And I also don't like the rule because I think it plays into too much what-ifery. I don't like to play what-ifery. What if he'd hit a crossover gate? What if something had flown into the stands? What if? We can what if all day long. You will never, ever, 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 ever cover all the what ifs in racing. I'm not a fan of it. It is what it is. The flip side is this does cement that move and make it, it was already an all-time move. It was already one of the coolest things ever. Now it is cemented in history. It happened once. It won't ever happen again. Not likely. It won't be watered down by people trying it for years now. It is what it is. It happened, and I'm glad I was watching it when it did. All right, so going from that rule to one that I actually do agree with. They've changed the penalty. The rule's the same. Wheel falls off the car, somebody's in trouble. They have revised it. And instead of trying to quote it or trying to get all the finer points at it, I'm just going to play this. This is Elton Sawyer on the Morning Drive, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. This is what he had to say about it.
As we took a deeper dive into the loss of wheel, if it happens between the yellow lines, yellow line entry, yellow line exit, we kind of look at that as that's a pit road infraction, very similar to an uncontrolled tire. We see that all the time, and an uncontrolled tire is a flag status penalty, which would be tailor to field under yellow, and it would be a drive-through under green, and it fits into that bucket. Once it gets outside of those parameters, and it gets on the apron of the racetrack, or it gets on the racing surface, and we get closer to our, the fans that are in the stands, whether it's under caution or whether it's under green flag conditions, it'll be a 2-lap penalty at that event. Immediately, it'll be a 2-race suspension for 2 pit crew members. We eliminated the crew chiefs from that suspension bucket, if you will, just for the fact that the way technology is today, crew chiefs can be located just about anywhere and do their job and communicate.
I think this was the right move. And the reason I think it's the right move is because when they made this rule, the wheels had 5 lugs. And you could say that if the wheel was loose, it was not as much of a mistake as much as it was an intentional attempt to shave a fraction of a second off of a pit stop. When you're intentionally shaving a fraction of a second off a pit stop and you're risking safety trying to get an edge on the competition, that's bad. We can debate on whether or not it was okay to penalize the crew chief for that. Thing is, it was something serious and it needed to be seriously punished. That's not the case anymore. There's one lug now. If the tire changer doesn't get that lug tight, there is no advantage. You're having a bad day. Any advantage is gone when that wheel falls off. So it definitely needs to still be penalized because it's a safety issue. However, penalizing the crew chief for a clear mistake, this was not like you can never say, hey, the crew chief went to the tire changer and said, hey, see if you can, shave a fraction of a second off by not getting that wheel all the way tight. Just get it on there. That's not happening. Nobody can say that it is happening. So penalizing the crew chief for that seems wrong, especially 4 races. 4 races is extreme. Changing that to penalizing this is the two crew members. Presumably, they say 2 crew members, so it does leave that open for them to penalize whoever the heck they feel like penalizing. But I think that presumably it's going to be the tire changer and the tire carrier. The tire carrier is the one that puts the tire on the hub, and he can see it, and he could probably see whether or not that lug gets tight or not, that wheel nut gets tight or not. Again, this is one that's going to be open for interpretation. Now to one that the last one I'm going to dive deep into, I don't agree with at all. That is the changing the playoff eligibility. You don't have to finish inside the top 30 in points anymore. You just need a win. Sometimes it feels like NASCAR is changing rules for the sake of changing rules. And this is what this one feels like. I don't understand it. Usually, even if I disagree with the rule, I can see what their intent is, what their goal is, what they hope to accomplish. I don't see it here. I don't know what their intent was. I don't know what they were hoping to accomplish, but I'm telling you what they're going to accomplish. Maybe not this season, maybe not next season, maybe in the next 2 seasons, maybe in the next 5 seasons, but it will happen. There will be a Justin Haley in Daytona a couple of years ago, a Chris Buescher in Pocono. There's going to be a driver who's going to win a race, finish outside the top 30 in points, going to get into the playoffs, and they have no business being there, and they're going to knock someone else out who finished 16th, 17th in points out of the playoffs. I don't think it's right. Granted, somebody who finishes that low in the points probably isn't going to win the championship anyway. But they belong in the playoffs more than the guy who squeaked a win out and got in and bumped them out, who had a much, much less consistent season outside of medical waivers, the Bush brothers, something like that. I don't get it. I don't agree with it. Maybe time will give some clarity and some perspective. I don't know. It is what it is. NASCAR is going to NASCAR. I don't have no other perspective. I don't know. The other, some of the other rule changes is wet weather package. I've covered that here on this channel before. NASCAR has said they're not planning on racing in a rainstorm. Clearly, they plan on racing in active rain, though, because they're requiring the teams to have a windshield wiper. I can't wait. I've heard people say, well, this is just that racing in the rain is just bad for racing, bad for NASCAR. And I think they are full of absolute baloney because I think it's awesome. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see what it looks like. Yeah, it might get a little crazy. My driver might be on the bad end of it. I still think it's going to be fun to watch. The races that we had in the rain before have been a blast to watch. Now, there's been some exceptions. COTA, Charlotte a couple years ago, those have been extreme. I don't think NASCAR wants to go back to that. But racing in the rain, I don't mind who knows that I think that it is fun to watch. And lastly, they've eliminated stage breaks at road course races. There still will be stages. There just won't be a caution flag to stop the field. The race will continue on. I could make a whole video just on that subject alone. If you expect me to jump on the bandwagon of stage racing is bad, you're not going to hear it out of me. I happen to like it. The day that stage racing was announced, that very day, I remember exactly where I was at and what I thought when I heard about it. I thought it was the most insane thing I'd ever heard. I hated it, didn't like the idea. After the first couple of weeks, I was on board, and I've been on board ever since. And I think a lot of the people who are still against stage racing are purists for the sake of being purists. They don't really, I don't understand what it takes away. If you tell me it's a strategy thing, well, I like seeing the strategy play out. Well, I'm sorry, but the stage racing has its own strategy. In a lot of cases, that strategy is more robust with stage racing than it is without. So it's a different kind of strategy, still strategy. Other than that, I don't see what it takes away from anything. It is what it is. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. You're going to have yours. I'm going to have mine. And if you want, share that down below in the comments. The next time I'll be on this channel, we'll be talking about post-race Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. Let me say it again. Post-race. I'm excited. I've been in withdrawal. Racing is finally back. I've been watching, guys, I'm telling you, I'm in bad shape. Withdrawals are real. I've been watching Days of Thunder on repeat. I've watched the 1985 Daytona 500 like 4 times. My family's sick of NASCAR on YouTube. Finally, live racing is coming back this weekend. Next video will be post-race of the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. In the meantime, if you've got local racing going on near you, get out and support it. Thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your week.